This is a bike stand, and this is a bike stand. In this video, I'm going to take a look at 5 really cool and unique products that I've been testing over the last couple of months. So first off, let's take a look at the All-Tangle Hanger Connect. This is a pretty unique take on a bike stand. The best way to describe it is kind of like two clamps joined together by this piece of aluminum. The overall length is about 14 inches and it weighs 3 pounds, so relatively travel friendly. The way that this works is that you've got this 3-inch jaw that you can attach to various surfaces, and on the other side you've got a jaw for your bicycle. The supposed weight it supports is 55 pounds. I personally think that is on the heavy side, and it's going to be highly dependent on what you actually clamp this to. In terms of adjustment, both jaws have a set of locking pins. This gives you some articulation and allows you to rotate either clamp for a more secure fit. So to test this out, I pedaled around the neighborhood to see what things this could potentially clamp on and whether it would hold up my bike. In my experience, it definitely worked best on angled surfaces. So think square pieces of bar stock, or the edges of picnic tables, or the backs of picnic benches. And while I found it possible to clamp on a standard US size street sign, it wasn't ideal. It would hold the bike up. I wouldn't trust it for very long. The inserts in the jaws are such that they definitely work best on angled surfaces. For the most part, however, it was pretty easy to clamp onto things, lift the bike up off the ground, and do quick and dirty drivetrain adjustments. I could also see using this to potentially build up and break down a bike for travel. I don't think it has enough holding strength to do high torque applications like installing or removing a bottom bracket, but for the quick and dirty, this is actually a kind of an interesting solution. I think this works best, let's say if you're doing the van life and you've got one of those small adventure ladders, you can clamp this onto that repeatable known surface. Otherwise, when you're traveling, you're a little bit at the whim of your environment, whether or not you can get a good enough surface to clamp on. This locking pin system where you pull out the pin and then reorientate the head to align it to other pinholes. It's not as quick as a locking 360-degree head, something similar to what's on a park stand, but I think to keep the cost down and the weight down, this is an okay solution. In terms of downsides, this segment here is a little short. I found sometimes when I had to clamp on in a angled kind of direction, it brought my flat pedals pretty close to the thing I was clamping onto. Probably less of a problem if you're running SPDs, but if you're a flat pedal rider, then know that the pedal on the same side as the clamp is probably going to run into some things on occasion. Another upgrade I'd like to see in the future is, if they made this clamping head, let's say a little bit larger, and it had a set of replaceable inserts. So depending on the surface, if it's perfectly flat or if it's rounded, that there would be a better insert to grasp on that particular surface. But overall, a pretty interesting tool for the traveling cyclist. Again, I think this would work best if you had a van and you had a kind of known repeatable surface to clamp on. The next interesting product is the Crowbar by Hitch Cycles. This is a company that's based in the Philippines. These are manufactured in the Philippines, and it functions very similarly to the Twisted T decaler stem rack, whatever you want to call it, from Swood. But since it comes in multiple pieces that you can take apart, it makes it a little bit easier to pack. And also one other benefit of this is that you can fine tune the fit. This can go up and down. Or if the cabling on the front end of your bike is really tight, it's a lot easier to install because you can slide this piece first and then push in the crossbar. Also slightly heavier to the Twisted T, but works very similar. And of course, it's in this nice shiny chrome finish and is available both in 1 1/8" threadless, as well as a version that's compatible with quill stems. That's one I've been using the most on my Rivendell. To my knowledge, it is the only production stem rack, stem decaler thing that's being made on any consistent basis for quill stems. So if you love these stem rack things, have an older bike that uses a quill stem, definitely check them out, or if you like the packability of this design. Hey there everybody, hopefully you guys have been enjoying the video. It's crunch time here at Pathless Pedaled headquarters. You can see that everything is getting pretty empty. We're about to make our big move If you guys have been enjoying this content, please consider supporting the channel by joining us on Patreon or check out some of the new merch we just listed on the shop. It's going to hit the stores this week and we'll probably start shipping it next week, but get on the waiting list. Every bit helps. Our plan is to keep making high quality independent bike content while we're in Spain, but we definitely need your help to do it since we're not sponsored. Let's get back to the video. Next product I'm going to look at is this guy. This is the Alakazam bag by WizardWorks and the matching basket by Manville Cycles. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a pretty straightforward basket bag. On the top it has a zippered flap for quick access to some things. They recommend mounting it like this, so when you open the flap, it goes towards the rider and not into your wheel. Once you get the flap open, there is a roll top closure and all this space. So much space in here. I love how roomy it is. I can stick all my plein air painting supplies in here, including my tripod, which is pretty cool. Some other nice touches is how it attaches to the basket. You've got some webbing straps here, as well as a hook. This goes up and over the wire mesh, connects to this bottom loop, and then you can tighten it up. And I gotta say, I really dig this hook design. It's a lot more svelte and elegant and more robust than a buckle. You know, a buckle, there are two hardware pieces. Here, there's just one hook. Can't really break it. It's a lot more minimal and a lot cleaner. Okay, so let's take a look at the second half, which is the Manville basket. This is pretty cool. Up until now, the main choice for basket packing was the Wald 137. You can see its hardware here. It's a little agricultural. These big tabs that are designed to clamp over your handlebar. And it works, but doesn't feel very refined. Compare that to the Manville basket. The mounting hardware, instead of a big bent plate, is bent wire integrated into the basket, not something you can lose, and it looks a lot more svelte. Also, instead of big clunky things that attach to your handlebar, it comes with a pretty herky diving board that connects to your fork crown. The leg struts here are really nice and elegant, and you can fine tune the length of the strut without having to cut it. It's got this threaded portion here that you just wind in or out to get the perfect length to your bottom dropout. This basket is super nice. Its stated capacity is 10 kilograms, which is about 22 pounds. That sounds a little high in my opinion. I would probably keep it to no more than 10 because it makes handling kind of weird. I did take this setup off-road on multiple rides and it was pretty rock solid. In terms of size, as how this compares to the Wald 137, it's a little bit shallower than the Wald 137, and it's also a couple centimeters longer and wider. I couldn't fit my tripod in the Wald 137, but it fits handily in this one. And because of its width, however, you will need a wider handlebar setup. Although since this isn't so tall, it also allows a little bit more room for drifters. I gotta say, I love the Wald 137, longtime user, but this is just a lot more refined. It's also a nicer size in my opinion. The hardware is a lot nicer. It's always been a little bit embarrassing to use the stock Wald hardware because it is so, it's just not pretty, guys. But this looks svelte, it looks refined, it looks intentional. So yeah, I think this might be the new king of baskets for basket packing. The next interesting product is the Redshift Arc Light Pro pedals. These are the more off-road oriented versions of the Arc Light pedals. If you're not familiar with this system, these are pedals that have integrated lights to them. The idea being that because the lights are moving as you pedal, it increases visibility, kind of catches the driver's attention behind you. What's unique about the pedals is that they have sensors built in, so the front side of the pedal will always be white and the rear side of the pedal will always be red. It's kind of a cool magic trick. Before I get into the lights themselves, I'm going to talk about the quality of the pedal, because lights are useless if the pedal just sucks. Thankfully, however, these pedals are pretty awesome as pedals. I've been riding them the last couple weeks on the Rivendell, taking them on lots of off-road rides. They have a decently sized platform and the traction pins are super grippy, about as grippy as any other mountain bike pedal I've tried. In terms of their profile, they're pretty much dead flat across the top. I definitely prefer more of a concave profile to cradle the foot, but flat is okay. At least it doesn't have like a big spindle hump that turns into a hot spot. In terms of grip and functioning as a pedal for gravel rides, mountain bike rides, it does a great job. So let's talk about the lights. You're gonna have to maintain 4 of them because there are 2 on each pedal. Thankfully, you don't have to use 4 separate USB cables to charge them, because it does come with this pretty cool charging dock that has the 4 USB slots to charge them. The lights have a steady mode as well as a flashing mode. I don't do a ton of night riding, so I've been using them more as a daytime running light, if you will. For battery life, I've charged them once and have been using them for like the last month and a half and haven't had to charge them again. They have a manual shutoff as well as an auto shutoff to save battery life. Are they effective lights? It's hard to tell. You know, I haven't been hit by a car, but that's not necessarily proof that they work. Obviously, riding at night or during those twilight hours, they're a lot more visible. I found that they were decently visible during daytime riding. It definitely didn't make me less visible, so it's not a bad thing. Are they effective as daytime running lights? It's kind of hard to say, but I do think it's one of those things that's nice to have on your bike. Let's say your main light runs out of battery, or you forget to charge it, or you left it at home. Because the pedals are always on your bike, they're kind of necessary to ride. You'll always have some kind of light source on your bike. So it's kind of nice to always have at least a kind of backup light system on your bike. And I think that's one of the added values of this light system. If you hang out with friends and it's starting to get dark and you didn't plan accordingly, you'll at least have the lights on your pedals. Next product is a bag by Bags by Bird. You guys know I'm a huge fan. His new one is the Piccolo, and it's got a lot of cool updates from the older bags. Like every other Bags by Bird bag, he uses a dual dowel system. Upgrade from older versions is that they're all external dowels, so these straps do not go into the bag whatsoever. This makes the bags a lot more weather resistant. It's also a little bit easier to get the straps on and off because you don't have to thread it through the bag, then thread it back out. Other notable upgrades are elastic for the head tube. Every bag should have these. He's also included some elastic cordage on the top of this one. Really simple hack that you can do to most bags. A good place to stuff your layers. Probably the more significant upgrades is an update on the hardware. Instead of using buckles, Jay has replaced it with these hooks. A lot less to break, again, a lot more svelte. Instead of 2 bits of hardware, it is just this one G-hook. This makes it easy to attach the G-hook to whichever webbing loop you want to use. This one here if you want to really tighten it down, or this lower setting if you happen to overstuff. Again, on the sides, we see these really cute versions of the hook. Again, no buckles to break, no plastic, just this metal hook. This cap is also a lot longer, but this will definitely cut down on any potential water ingress because it is so long. And the last most notable upgrade is the addition of some mesh pockets here. So this is kind of nice. It adds some organization. Also, I found even with the bag closed, I can usually slip my hand under and grab a tool or grab a snack from the mesh pocket. So a super nice touch to add more organization, a little bit separate space, a little bit quicker access so you don't have to undo the hooks. I do find that the hooks are a little bit slower to deploy than a buckle. So it's a bit of a trade-off if you want the quick release of a buckle or just the bomb-proofness of a hook. Love the upgrades. I wish my older Bags by Bird bags had them. Jay's also been kind enough to extend a Patreon discount to 5 people of our Patreon community on these new bags. He's a small maker, doesn't have a lot of margin to play with, but I wanted some of the folks from our Patreon community to get a chance to experience this bag for themselves at a slightly lower cost. And speaking of our Patreon, you should totally join if you enjoy this content. It helps keep the lights on literally, or if that's too much of a commitment, definitely check out our merch store. We just got some new patches and some pins. Every bit helps support the channel. As always, everybody, keep the supple side down.